Hello and welcome. My name's Andy Crook and I'm your host for this training topic all about the minimum viable action, or MVA. My mission is to help garage owners become more successful in business. How I do that is every week I try to go live on one of the 5 pillars of business as I see it. This week we're in the planning pillar and we're talking about MVA, or minimum viable action. So without further ado, let's get on with tonight's training topic. Minimum viable action, or MVA, is all about prioritizing progress, productivity, and performance. It's a simple yet powerful concept that helps businesses break through inertia, combat perfectionism, and drive real progress. Instead of overcomplicating plans or waiting for that perfect moment, MVA encourages taking the smallest meaningful step forward, what I call atomic action. This approach aligns with the philosophy of progress over perfection as instrumental in achieving long-term success. Or as one famous trainer brand put it, just do it. The power of atomic actions. Too often, people get stuck in the planning phase. They wait for ideal conditions, perfect clarity, or complete confidence before taking action. But the reality is that clarity comes from action, not thought. The MVA principle embraces this truth by focusing on the smallest actionable step that moves the needle. To make the concept even more memorable, think of MVA as 4 Ps: prioritizing, progress, productivity, and performance. Each of these is fueled by taking small but meaningful actions. Any planning or strategy is really prioritizing your resources. And progress happens when you stop overthinking and start doing. Productivity increases when you eliminate necessary steps and focus on what truly matters. And performance improves when small actions compound over time, leading to massive results. MVA is your tactical advantage over the competition. So, the power of atomic actions. Why did I call this program that I came up with Atomic Success? The idea being, atomic, the smallest particle, means taking action every day. And the atomic actions, the weekly sort of plan I give you at the end of every one of these training topics, is the little thing you could do. If that training topic sort of resonated with you, that's something you need to do in your business. Doing that thing, and it's often the very, very small action that I give you, is the thing that's going to, the littlest or the smallest thing you can do that you'll be able to see a result from. At least that's the theory. But what is an MVA, and why does it give you tactical advantage over your competition? The simple fact is that most of the other businesses around you won't be taking a minimum viable action every day. They won't do anything until they need to. Whereas if you do have an MVA based philosophy and you're doing something every day, however small, you will overtake them. It's just the if you like, the nature of these things. And believe it or not, by acting on those 4 Ps, prioritizing progress, productivity, and performance, you will overtake your competition. It's just the nature of this particular beast. So we're going to look at 3 particular MVA tactics that I like to talk about quite a lot, and we'll go over them again in this context to see how you can use them within your business or even in your personal life, and then we'll have a look at how those concepts are then applied to the atomic success method that I talk about. So the 3 tactics we're going to talk about are chunking, avoiding overwhelm, and failing fast. So chunking first. So when setting personal or even professional goals, people are always encouraged to aim high. The only problem with aiming high is it's easy to get discouraged when you don't see meaningful progress towards such lofty goals. Now, you've probably all heard many people say this, you should always have a big audacious goal or big hairy goals or whatever terms that people use when they talk about goal setting. But that doesn't actually help when it comes to taking action, because it looks like the thing that you're aiming to get to is so far away that you just don't know where to start. And that's where chunking comes in. So if you had this great big lofty goal of writing a book, instead of committing to writing a full book, an MVA approach would be to write one chapter every week. And if you wanted to break that down even further, which is the chunking principle, writing one paragraph per day. And you can see now that as a goal is much, much more achievable, isn't it? Can I write a paragraph today? Yes or no? Simple as that. Did I write a paragraph today? Yes or no? If I write several paragraphs, by the end of the week, will I have written a chapter? How many chapters do I need to write a book? And there you go. And you've chunked a massive task into smaller subtasks. And it's making each one of those. What is the smallest actionable step? You could even take that further and say, I need to write depending on the time scale, I need to write one sentence per day. It depends on the size of the task and how far you want to chunk it down. So that's the first one, chunking. The second one, avoiding overwhelm. Now, in a business setting, teams and businesses, when they get together, often feel paralysed by the sheer volumes of tasks. Instead of tackling everything at once, an MVA-driven approach would be to identify the most important task that drives the project forward, and then just do it. This method creates momentum, motivation, and measurable results. So when you look at a big task, and this is slightly different to chunking, where we break that task down into smaller actionable steps. This one is all about identifying the one thing that will move the project forward immediately, the next thing that will move the project forward, and then the next thing that will move the project forward, and then do it. And what's amazing by this, instead of being sort of stalled and the project having so much inertia that it feels you can't get it going, identifying the one lever that you can pull that will get you some momentum creates more momentum, which will create more momentum. And before you know it, you'll start to see measurable results. And this idea is one that I often talk about, but I don't often call it avoiding overwhelm. I often refer to this from a more strategic point of view, and we'll talk about that in a second. The third and final tactical advantage that we're going to talk about is failing fast, or as I sometimes say, failing or succeeding fast. And many businesses delay launching a new initiative simply because they feel unprepared. Instead of waiting until everything is just perfect, an MVA approach would be just do it. Put out a basic version, get feedback, improve and repeat. Taking this immediate action provides the opportunity to get a valuable feedback loop going. Or if what you just launched, your basic version, was perfect, it allows you to get 5-star reviews and people talking about this new initiative. The sooner you start, the sooner you get a feedback loop. And the feedback loop is what you'll use to improve and repeat, improve and repeat. All too often, many businesses are sort of waiting for the thing they're working on to become perfect. And perfection is the perfect killer of momentum. So they're the three tactical advantages that I wanted to talk about. So how are these MVA concepts applied using the atomic success method, or some of the things you've heard me talking about? So when it comes to chunking, one of the training topics right at the beginning, I think it was called chunking, and the subheading was "Don't try to boil the ocean." And what did I mean by that? Well, basically, if you took a pan of water and you wanted to boil it, it wouldn't take too long with it. But if you wanted to try and boil an ocean, that's going to take some time and it'll probably seem impossible and you'll just give up. And that's the idea behind it. So every business owner has 3 personalities. You have your strategic personality, your operational personality, and your tactical personality. And what chunking does is you take those 3 personalities and you prioritize tactics. You know what the strategic goal is, you know what the operational tasks are, but you don't know what, at this point, the daily actions are. So what we as business owners tend to do, especially if we're fairly new to business, is we spend all our time tactical, working in our business, when we should be spending more time being strategic and operational, working on the business. And you notice of the three personalities, two of them are working on and one of them is working in. Yet the typical percentage of time given over is about 80 to 90% of your time, if not 100% of your time, is tactical. And you need to sort of flip that on its head. In an ideal world, you should be spending 2/3 of your time working on your business and 1/3 of your time working in your business. Now, it takes a long time to get to that point. And the tactical work here isn't always what you think. It could be putting one of these strategies together. That's working in it, whereas thinking about it and measuring stuff is working on it. So they're the strategic and operational, and the tactical being the doing. So when I look at this, what I ask business owners to do when we start to break down lofty goals is I have versions of planning, and the first one is a vision, which is your 10-year plan, and you break the 10-year vision into smaller goals, and then you break the smaller goals down into even smaller plans. So if you think of how I do this, so I have a 10-year vision and three-yearly goals. For those of you who are sharp at maths will realise that only adds up to 9, because I always encourage to have a floating year, a year that you can write off for whatever reason. And once you break your 10-year vision down into three-yearly goals, I break the three-yearly goals down into achieving in the first 3-year cycle 20%, in the second 3-year cycle 30% of the overall goal, and in the final 3-year cycle achieving 50%, because we're going to compound the effects of the work that we did beforehand, and that allows us to be able to achieve more each time. Even if we were to chunk down in a more traditional sense and break our 10-year plan into 10 equal stages, the first year would be incredibly difficult, because we wouldn't be able to. We haven't got the experience, we haven't learned enough about how to run our business to achieve 1/10 of the goal. So what we do is we break that down, and we want to try and achieve much smaller amounts, and we chunk that up. And then once you've got your 3-yearly plans, and you know that in your 3-yearly plan you want to achieve 20 in the first 3 years, 20% of the overall thing, you can then break your 3-yearly, your single year plans into 20, 30, 50% once again. And you can break that even further down if you want to. And basically, if you keep chunking down, you end up with your 90-day objectives, your quarterly plans, and then you break those down into your weekly tasks, and then you're left with your to-do list, what you're going to do today to achieve that goal. And that's how you can break a 10-year plan all the way down to what you need to do today in order to have a minimum viable action, the thing you need to do today to achieve your 10-year vision. It doesn't feel like that when you're doing your to-do list, because you've chunked it right down. That method is incredibly powerful, and I've used it a number of times through my own business, my personal plans, as well as with other businesses. And once you get used to doing it, it becomes second nature. So much so that you can set yourself really lofty, massive goals, and they don't tend to feel too onerous, because you only have to do one thing today to make it happen. So that leads into our second tactic, which is avoiding overwhelm. And often what we try and do is we're trying to identify the most important thing, or the thing that will start to get us momentum when we're looking at what we need to do. So if we're applying this to a business context, and in the atomic success method, what I get people to do is identify the lowest level need in their business. We call this fix this first or fix this next. And it's based on the book by Mike Michalowicz. And what we do is we look at the lowest level need in your business, and we apply level specific fixes. So what this allows us to do is we're not tempted to look at the business and everything that's wrong. What we're going to do is we're going to look at what is wrong and which is the basic level fix. What is the lowest level need of your business? And then we apply fixes only at that level. And what normally happens as a happy consequences of fixing lower level needs, you will automatically fix problems at higher level needs. But you don't set out to do that. All you're trying to do is fix the lowest level need of your business. There's another training topics on this, and the levels that I tend to look at when I'm working with business owners, or certainly in my own business when I first started off, was sales, profit, and order. They're the three levels that most businesses need to fix. And if you don't have enough sales, you shouldn't work on profit. You need to create cash flow. Once you've got significant cash flow, you can then work on the profit. Once you've got a business that's making a profit, you can then look on order, which is basically systemizing that business. And then once you've done that, you can look at your impact your business has within your local community. And then finally, you can work on the legacy of the business. What's going to be left behind when you are no longer associated with that business. And they're the levels. And by prioritizing the level needs, you become incredibly focused on one area of the business. And when you start making fixes there, what you'll find as a happy coincidence is that you will fix higher level needs. And what I find when we work through this with business owners and they stick at it and they stay disciplined and they only work on the level they need to, is some of the problems they identified at higher levels have gone by the time they come to tackle them. Because actually those higher level fixes or problems were as a consequence of lower level problems. So the final aspect is failing fast or succeeding fast if you've done a great job. And this is what I call the atomic MVA. An MVA in this context stands for more, better, and additional, not a master's in business administration. But it's kind of a master's in business administration, because what we're trying to do with this methodology, encouraging you just to do something and then do more of that something, then do that something better before you add to it. And that could be applied to the business at any level. And why I like this one is because we do it more, we naturally do it better. Repetition is, if you like, the way to get better at something. If you're into martial arts, Bruce Lee famously said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." And that's what doing it more does, is it gives you that repetition, makes you do it better. Once you're doing enough of something, you can then focus on doing it better. And by doing it better, it results in you doing more. And by doing more, you do it better. You see where I'm going with this. And you only do something additional once you focus on one thing. Yeah, when you either reach capacity for doing that thing or perfection. And what all of these tactics are really about is focus. If you set out to do one small thing every day that brings you closer to your goal before you move on to anything else, and it's amazing, by focusing and drilling down into that one thing, you'll be surprised how much impact that small thing can have. So the atomic action for this week is act now and adjust later. And how I get people to think about their minimum viable action is simply this: place your long-term vision in a place where you can see it. So I often ask people, say, put their vision, whatever that is, as a statement, as their screensaver on their phone, so they see it every time they pick up their phone, or print it out and stick it on the bathroom mirror. The reason for putting it on the bathroom mirror will come apparent in a second. So when you get up in the morning and you look at your phone to turn off your alarm or whatever it is, the first thing you see is your vision. Or you get up and you go to brush your teeth. If it's next to the bathroom mirror, you'll see your vision. And then when you see that, it reminds you to ask yourself, what could you do today to make it happen? And then just before you go to bed, and you close your phone off, set your alarm, once again, you see your long-term vision. You ask yourself, what did I do today to make it happen? Or before you go to bed and you're brushing your teeth, once again, it's there by the mirror and you ask yourself, what did I do today to make that happen? And by embracing the minimum viable action, you remove the pressure of perfection and replace it with momentum. Whether you own a business or are working towards your own personal goals, the key to success is always action. Take action every day and watch how quickly progress follows. If I've made you think a little bit about how you achieve your goals by using an MVA methodology and being more tactical with your actions, then I've done my job. Remember, what's stopping you is starting, and if you should, you must. Thanks for listening. See you next time.